Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. This is a future forum, and so that means I'm supposed to talk about the future, but if I could tell the future, you probably wouldn't have seen me here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer some hypotheses on what we expect not to change at all, and what we expect to change and how things need to change. And it's going to be a whistle-top tour because I've only been given 20 minutes to define the future, so we'll see how that goes. Arguably, the world of work, the speed of change and the acceleration of change in the world of work is significant over the last 5 years compared to the evolution that the world of work has gone through in the last 30 years or so. So why is that? One is the confluence of disruptions. So inflation, 30-year high. You're talking about wars. You're talking about disruptive weather events. You're talking about AI and technology. You're also, the way we work because of the pandemic has changed. And also there's a lot of automation and technology, and certainly AI is going to accelerate it. And also there are labor market shifts. So we have supply challenges in labor markets in most of the markets. So there's a shortage of talent and skills depending on the kind of talent and skills you're looking for. You have more choices. Your labor market has more choices, but because of that, there are also inequities in the labor market, in the haves and have-not. And there's more transparency and there's more voice. So you couldn't, before social media, the kind of voice that employees had to talk about, say, quiet quitting on TikTok, that just wouldn't have happened. So the water cooler whispers have been replaced by social media amplification of employees' voice, and employers have to react to it. So that's what's happening in terms of meta trends. So what does it mean for employees? We know that employees are dealing with rising cost of livings and financial and job insecurities because of AI, because of flexible work, because of ability to do certain jobs at certain places, et cetera. The uncertainty in the markets, the uncertainty of the future, again, with AI and some of the technology advances, flexible work models means that there is an impact on physical, social health. Right? Choice also means there are deepening inequities because of technology between the haves and the have-nots. So people who are able to work from home versus or remotely or hybrid work versus people have to go do their jobs. People who are worried about their jobs being taken away by AI versus people who will have more opportunities. So that's what employees are dealing with. We talked about transparency in social media, but that is fundamentally changing the expectations of what employees want. And there's a changing attitude. So that's sort of the employee context. And so in that context, what does it mean for benefits? Well, if you want to get the most out of your money, the money that you spent in hundreds of millions of dollars that companies spend on benefits, you still want your benefits to enable your talent strategy in terms of sourcing and keeping the talent that you need and building your workforce resilience. You want to treat all your employees fairly and help them improve the financial and health outcomes to build that resilience. You have to manage your costs because money is not infinite, right? So that you can spend money on what matters or what's important. And you still have to do all of this with some level of operational efficiency, increasingly do more with less because of automation, because of technology, because of offshoring, all of that, right? The argument is that these things have always been there. You always needed your benefits to have some kind of business relevance. You needed it to work for your employees. You had to manage your costs, and you had to do this with operational efficiency. So that is not going to change. What we think is going to fundamentally change is how do you accomplish this? So we just completed a study of 250 global companies and asked them the question of what is the relevance of benefits from a business perspective? And to orient you to the picture, the left side, the brown, purple graph is what companies are saying where they are today, and then the other side is where they expect to be in 3 years, okay? And as you can see, that whilst for a large number of, for many years, benefits was a neutral element of workforce strategy, companies do want to make meaningful competitive differentiation by using benefits. They want to think about how do benefits build your workforce resilience so your people are able to deal with the uncertainties and still be present and productive to do the work. And they want to send a signal. So in terms of attraction and retention, according to our Benefit Strength Survey, which is a global survey of companies, multi-local survey of companies, what companies think about their benefit programs, as well as the Global Benefits Attitude Survey, which is how employees think about benefits. It's not surprising, and particularly with COVID-19, that companies do want greater security, and benefits provide that security. That's not going to change. Retirement and health benefits usually rate as the top 5 factors, not at the top, in the top 5 factors of drivers of attraction and retention. People actually are looking for more help from a retirement perspective, and choice generally improves employees' attitudes and perception of benefits. So that's your ability to not have to spend more money. The whole point I'm going to make is don't throw money at the problem. Let's not throw money at the problem. Let's look at what can we do differently with things that are changing that is going to create more value for the businesses and more value for your employees without spending money or spending less money that you have, less money than you've had in the past, because technology and data sciences are going to fundamentally change how we engage people in their benefit programs and how we drive value both for companies and employees. The other thing that we're saying is workforce resilience. So I think the COVID-19 crisis generally settled the question that there is a significant correlation between your employees' well-being or lack thereof and its impact on performance, productivity, engagement, and health, right? We know that when people are financially unstable, they're not able to pay attention to work. The point here we want to make is that pay career benefits is not just about offering well-being programs, but your pay, benefit, career, and your well-being programs have to come together in order to build your workforce resilience. And I want you to remember that point because I want to come back to it towards the end. And then the last thing is, and this was a big surprise, not surprise, but this was really a big shift, that companies are increasingly thinking about using benefits to signal what they stand for as a company and their employee value proposition, right? And we know this, we've already seen it, I'm sure you've experienced it in terms of the equity and inclusiveness of benefit programs, right? More and more companies are wanting to offer set global minimum standards in terms of what should you do or what should you provide for your employees, both in terms of coverage or in terms of as well as portfolio benefits that you offer. Parental leave has been in the news for now several years, in the last 4 or 5 years, in terms of global standards for parental leaves. And finally, again, your total reward programs have to align with your work policies and practices. So you can't have contrary work policies. That says everybody must come into work at 7 and work till 10 o'clock at night and be available on the weekends like sometimes happens in America, and then talk about well-being at the same time, right? That just doesn't work. So you really have to, so this is what companies are going to have to think about. What do their benefits represent and how what they represent is aligned with other policies? And again, I want you to remember this point because I want to come back to it at the end. So all that's good, right? However, it all takes money, right? And so we know, let's just take the example of healthcare. Now we know that the cost of healthcare is largely driven by utilization, underlying inflation first, which is pretty high these days, utilization of your programs, and the unit cost of benefits in terms of, because your cost of treatments due to technology, et cetera, keeps on going up, as well as the cost of medicine, right? what happens, though, usually what you've done in terms of managing these costs is you share these costs with social programs and you share these costs with your employees. But what happens when your employees are dealing with rising cost of living, and what happens when social programs come under stress? So this is the analysis that our colleagues in our health and benefits team have done, of what has happened since 2018 to 2022 in terms of the annual cost of occupational health care, and what it's gone up from 131 to 263. And the reason for it is the proportion of members utilizing supplemental benefits beyond NHS has gone up, and which should not be a surprise to you, because NHS is under significant stress. But what that means is, if money is not infinite and your programs are costing more and more, and yet you're wanting to help your employees build your resilience and create business value without spending money, how do you do it? So how do you make room to spend money on what actually matters? So first is predictive modeling. Because of AI and machine learning and deep machine learning, the ability to model cost and expect what's going to happen to budget is different and will be different than what has been in the past. That's one. The second thing is, companies need to understand, and this will happen more and more, because of transparency and because of the advances made in employee sensing, companies need to understand what their employees want and what trade-offs they're willing to make. And the reason I say that is, what else do your companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars per year as a capital expenditure without understanding what their consumers, what your consumers want? We don't do that in real business, and yet on the benefit side, for years and years and years, we've provided benefit programs and benefits without really knowing what employees want and value and what trade-offs they're willing to make. Eliminate benefits that employees aren't using, don't need, don't care about. No point in spending money, and not necessarily just spending money, because you can still give employees access, but it still has a cost in terms of operating cost, in terms of legal cost, in terms of communications, in terms of resources, and therefore let's get rid of benefits that are not utilized or not wanted, and then realign benefits with the business and employee values. And that's the biggest change that we're expecting to see in the future, which is, how do you align your total reward programs with your employees' values and preferences? And by doing that, you are able to maintain the same level of perceived value and spend less money. Because when employees are given trade-off choices, you have a better understanding of what they actually want and what they don't want. So if you came to me and asked me, would you like to have higher pay, better healthcare benefits, and higher retirement benefits? Why would I say no as an employee? But if you come to me and say, do you want more money in your paycheck as compared to retirement benefits, or do you want me to cover more of my healthcare programs? That creates a very different sentiment, because now you're asking me to do trade. And so you're able to better understand what employees are actually willing to trade so that they get what they want. And more you add to that bucket, including careers, right, you will get better answers in terms of, and why that's important is because you want your benefit programs to really drive the business value, which is, how do you keep and source and keep the talent and skills that you need in a very dynamic and shifting labor market, right? So the relevance of benefits and how you spend money on what benefits is going to matter more and more. Then there's the employee experience. Again, if you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on benefits, and if those benefits don't work for your employees because they don't know how to use it, then you are absolutely wasting your money, right? So here is the thing. As an employee, I want to know what benefits I have, and I want to be smarter about and more literate about my financial and physical health, and even mental and social health, and its impact on my health overall, right? I need to understand, in order to do that, what benefits, because you do offer a lot of different types of benefits, whether I should select a certain level of coverage or focus on, I don't know, at WTW, they, I think, offer me wine as one of the benefits. And I have never used it because I don't trust the kind of wine they're going to send me, because we are not wine connoisseurs at WTW. But I need to understand that, right? So and because of generative AI, because of the availability of information, because of transparency, increasingly, you should be able to help your employees decide what's right for them and for better hyper-personalization. Then managing through change, right? Things happen, right, in your personal life as well as externally. So let's not talk about personal things, but let's talk about external things. So what happens when inflation goes through the roof and equity markets go down? In your retirement programs, in your savings programs, you may have suboptimal decisions because employees see the drop in their account balances in their pension plans and want to sell high, sell low, because equities are down, and buy high, and that's a suboptimal decision. Or because they want more money to live, they may forego coverage in their healthcare programs, and that's a problem. So you need to help employees manage through change, because that matters. That's the moment that matters. And when I actually have to use the benefits, right? If I need to go to the doctor, and if I need to use my healthcare program, so when I decide to retire and I need to figure out what benefits, how do I take my money, how do I, what kind of choices do I want to, when I use that benefit, I need help. And so forget about moments that matter. These are the 4 moments that matter, and we should be able to deliver targeted, hyper-personalized information and insights to employees to help them do that. And technology, so what does that mean? We can use behavioral design and delivery to engage employees in their benefits, right? And behavioral economics is, Taylor got a Nobel Prize. He talked about, at University of Chicago, I think in the late 90s, he talked about the impact of behavioral economics and retirement savings, right? Behavioral economics has a huge role to play in terms of how do you help your people make the right decisions while giving them options to choose so in terms of design thinking, because you just don't want to tell them that if you save more money, you'll be better off in retirement. That doesn't work. You have to default people into their savings plan, because that's the only thing that works. So that's sort of the examples of behavioral economics. You want to offer personalized support to make good decisions, because what I need, not wine, you guys might like wine and want to drink wine that WTW sent you every month. And so, but that is your personal choice, and therefore you need that information to make that decision. And then finally, ultimately, you need to improve the health of employees. And I don't mean just physical health, I mean financial health, physical health, mental health, social health, without throwing money at the problem. Right? And so what's going to change in the future is throw less money at the problem and have better health outcomes. And that's what benefits are going to do. As I said, hypotheses, right? I don't have. But we can see that from a digital experience, technology does allow us to create a digital experience. So we are able to listen to our employees better to understand what they want. We are able to use multiple channels to deliver information. We are able to create the content that's simple and easy to understand so that they can actually know what the hell we're talking about. We can use data, and we can measure what progress we have in terms of engaging our employees. And I think, again, technology, advances in data sciences and AI is fundamentally going to change how this happens and how this is done as compared to what has been done in the past, because that's the big opportunity. And so none of this. And then one last thing, and we can open it up to questions. So what's the operating model, right? So we talked about the business value. We talked about how to make room to spend money on what matters. And we talked about how do you engage your employees differently. all of that so that you're either creating an upside for the business or you're managing the downside in terms of the cost without giving up on the value that you create. So how do you do that? Historically, there have been two orientations of benefits functions, the operational orientation and the strategic orientation, right? And they've been relatively siloed in terms of operations and governance, in terms of data and analytics, benchmarking, utilization data, participation data, et cetera. And then on the top is the benefit strategy, the decisions around the kinds of benefits you offer, making sure that your business leaders actually understand the cost, they're able to budget it, et cetera. We think that this demarcation is going to fundamentally change in the future, and there's going to be an integration of strategic and operational orientation. And the way that's going to happen is you will have to think about how do you create better business alignment. We talked about signals, we talked about what benefits mean in terms of creating meaningful competitive differentiation, how, et cetera. The second thing is the employee experience, right? How does this land with your employees? How do your employees engage with their benefits so they have better health outcomes without, again, throwing money at the problem? And how are these things underpinned by data and technology-enabled infrastructure? So what we expect will happen is through automation, through technology, through outsourcing and offshoring, you will see the transactional elements of benefits management be managed relatively efficiently through automation. And then the operational, so just to cite some examples, let's just talk about example of employee experience and business alignment. You have to think about how you are creating employee experience by understanding what your employees want and what employees are looking for and what the market trends are. And in order to do that and helping employees make good decisions, all of that requires data, right? And therefore you need the data infrastructure to understand the behavioral data, the benchmarking data, the employee sentiments, et cetera. And that needs the underlying infrastructure. The same kind of data then actually helps you strategic business decisions in terms of what to offer, what not to offer, how do you use predictive analytics by using the data to model your costs and budget your costs, right? So the data-enabled delivery infrastructure is going to underpin your business alignment and employee experience. The line between the business alignment and employee experience is going to fundamentally blur because what's good for the employees is good for the companies, and what's good for companies needs to be good for the employees, right? So that's my whistle-stop tour. So in summary, as I said, what will remain the same is that your benefits have to create a business value in terms of enabling your workforce strategy, in terms of sourcing and keeping the talent and skills you need, as well as building your workforce resilience and health outcomes of your employees. That's one. You are going to have to manage costs because not infinite money. In fact, you can do more with spent less money, and you have to have operational efficiencies in order to do that, and that requires a level of infrastructure. How that happens is going to change because of artificial intelligence, because of advances in data and technology. So that's my whistle-stop tour of your future. Any questions, comments? We don't have any time for questions and comments. Excellent. I like that. Thank you for having me.